Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining our webinar, Turbocharge Your Lead Conversions. I'm your host, Amit Taplial. I'm the Director of Marketing at Altudo. A quick introduction about us. We at Altudo are a one-to-one experience company. We bring together deep MarTech expertise, CX and demand gen strategy, engagement analytics, and cross-channel orchestration to drive business uplift. As marketers, we want our campaigns to be turbocharged. More leads, more signups, more revenue. But not all of us have, say, Coca-Cola's marketing budgets or Apple's brand equity. Is there, however, a way to achieve this growth despite the constraints? We believe that you already have the potential to do this and more. According to the 2018 Demand Generation Benchmark Survey report, 70% of marketers said their demand generation budgets are set to grow this year. This, however, comes with a fine print. Expectations of growth and increase in marketing's share of ROI. To discuss more on this and how to grow customers on autopilot while delighting them with a fantastic user experience, I'm pleased to invite our panelists today. Akhil and Shannon, could you please give a quick introduction to the audience? Over to you guys.
Thank you, Amit, and thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. Quick introduction, I'm part of the digital solutions team here at Altudo, the one-to-one marketing agency. A lot of you might knew us as eDynamic. We were known as eDynamic before till the end of last year. I'd been working with marketers and technologists since last 15 years. I had been engaged with over 20 Fortune 500 firms as well as several startups across 8 countries. Before Altudo or eDynamic, I had worked with several organizations including IBM, Wipro, HCL, as well as was running my own venture on advanced analytics. I'm a strong believer in simplification. If we can't simplify, it means we have not probably understood the concept right. That's it from my end. Shannon, over to you.
Hi, I'm Shannon Prager with Lead It Marketing. I'm the president and founder of Lead It Marketing. Has been around for 10 years. We're focused on demand generation and strategy building for B2B tech companies primarily. I've been in this space for 25 years. I have a pretty diverse background of running international demand generation teams as well as running Marcom and analyst relations and public relations. So I have a really unique focus on how all the different marketing campaigns and strategies need to be working together in order to have the biggest impact for clients. So with that, we're excited to jump into the webinar topic today. As I mentioned, the focus today is turbocharging lead conversion. And at the center of any lead or demand generation campaign, you really have to understand who your customers are and the process that they go through to buy. So the secret to any personalization strategy is really going to start with understanding their buying process, who they are, how they purchase, how they get influenced, and how they make decisions. Many companies will follow a typical marketing strategy development cycle. And while I've simplified this, typically the steps are obviously number one, to understand the goals that you're setting for any particular marketing strategy. So that's typically in the form of revenue goals, lead goals, pipeline goals that you're building for sales. Then you obviously need to understand who your target audience is. How do they buy? How do you find them? What are the common characteristics by which you can locate them? What are the common pain points that they're experiencing? Who the buying team is? You really need to understand deeply about the buying process in order to architect a campaign or strategy that's going to try to move them through it. Competitive insights is often a huge focus of developing a strategy. You obviously want to understand where the competition is entering the market, how they're speaking, how they're trying to differentiate themselves, so you can build a campaign that sets yourself up to differentiate against everybody else. Which obviously leads into you developing your unique value proposition. Why are you different from the competitors, and how is a buyer going to understand how to make decisions against you versus the competition. Then comes channel research. So where are your buyers going to purchase? Where do they live? How do they research? Are they doing Google searches? Are they living on LinkedIn? Are they living on certain channels by which you can go and market and bring them into your journey? And then finally, when you have those pieces, you have all the foundational elements to build a plan. When we build out plans for clients, we're usually building in year-long cycles, but within quarterly sprints. So we will, potentially be targeting, certain tactics in the first quarter and trying to roll out different marketing campaigns over a period of time. Then you begin executing, and then you're obviously always measuring and trying to optimize based on what you're seeing in performance. The secret here, though, is really in understanding the target audience. So what do companies do to really understand who their customers are? And many of you are probably familiar with buyer personas, but before we launch into what's commonly captured in the buyer persona process, I had a quick poll question for you. Are you currently using buyer personas in the development of campaign creation and planning? So I'll give you a quick second to answer the poll, and when they shut it down, we'll be able to move to the next slide. Perfect, thank you. And so before we dive into buyer personas and some of the common pitfalls, I wanted to just quickly cover what is included in typical buyer personas and break some of these out from, I feel like where a lot of people make some mishaps here. So the common areas of buyer personas are really understanding different roles and responsibilities that you're targeting, understanding the demographics that they're living within. So this could be age range, this could be where they live, this could be the departments that they sit within. Buying characteristics. So who is their buying team? What are their buying patterns? What is the language that they're using when describing their buying journey? What are the different pain points that they're trying to solve when moving through the process? What are their unmet needs? And how feeling and doing is really meant to understand what's important to them. When they're looking at one vendor over another, are they looking at cost? Are they looking at features and functions? Are they looking at how easy it is to integrate with other tools? There are a lot of things that are going to be important factors that they're going to consider when making decisions. And then finally, where are the different channels that they're going and consuming content, and what are the kinds of content that they're consuming as they move through the buying process? Until you really understand all of these elements, it's very hard to develop a campaign that's going to be grounded in what you know about how that buyer is going to consume content in campaigns. So some of the common pitfalls that we find that our clients are often making with personas is that they're basing it off their own internal assumptions, and they're really not going to their clients to understand in their language and in their terms how they would describe the pain in the process. They're interviewing the wrong people. So it's not uncommon for us to get a list of personas and then find out through the process that these are not the same people that actually purchase the product. These are the end users of the product, which is not who you're targeting when you're trying to find a lead that's in the process of buying. Not interviewing enough people, so getting too small of a sample size so you don't really understand where the intricacies are of the different people that you're trying to reach. Focusing too much on demographic information and not on the buying process. So this is a very common one where we go into clients, they feel that they understand exactly who their clients are, and they may from a demographic perspective, but they don't really understand the pains or the process that they go through to buy. Having too few or too many personas, botching the interview process by not asking the right questions, creating personas in a marketing or internal bubble. It is very, very common that people feel like they fully understand what their customers want because they've designed solutions, products, services around it, but they haven't really taken the time to talk with the customers to hear things in their language. overlooking the negative persona, the person that isn't selecting you for a particular reason, not including all the information you have. This is also very common where people, they get a lot of information, but they're not quite sure where it fits into the strategy. And then not really knowing how to leverage and execute the persona across the different parts of your marketing department or sales department. So once we have the persona information captured, we apply it to what we're calling the buying life cycle. And many of you have heard of the buying life cycle, maybe in slightly different terms, but the buying life cycle is based on your customers going through a journey and understanding the different questions that they're asking themselves through the journey, and then applying a marketing process underneath that. So when they're in the awareness stage, they are asking pain-based questions. They're not searching on a solution. They're not searching on a vendor. They're usually Googling if they're going to go down the Google route of trying to identify their problem. They will be Googling pain-based terms. When they move into the consideration phase, they are starting to understand different offerings that are addressing the pain, and they're starting to understand like what different solutions are out there and how different companies are addressing the pain. So they're starting to look at solution-based search terms. And then when they move into purchase, it becomes a product-based analysis. So they're looking at one vendor versus the other and starting to compare features and functions or cost or ROI. But they have shortlisted the solution at that time, and they're really just trying to validate that the solution is the final right, meets the final requirements for their needs. The importance of doing the research up front with the personas is that you can't really architect a campaign that moves people across the life cycle unless you understand what their challenges and pains are as they move through the life cycle. So if there's one thing that we say is very important and is going to indicate the success of your campaigns, it's spending the time getting these insights up front, because you can't really build anything until you have this.
Great, Shan. Thanks for the insights. So yeah, now it's really upon us. We know who our customer is. We know what kind of customer journey they are going to travel. But as marketers, what can we contribute towards it? That's really what I'm going to touch shortly. So awareness phase, this is really critical to catch new visitors. All of us know that we try to get maximum traffic and minimum bounds during this phase. There can be multiple strategies from organic, inorganic, search, web, social, mobile. But at this point in time, the engagement from the visitor is really low. There are multiple digital channels we have. One piece of information that we know about the prospect or visitors is their IP address. And that's really that we can utilize in terms of identifying that user at this stage. There's nothing beyond that IP address that we can identify the visitor. Awareness phase typically is extended. It's not really a short process. Prospects may take much more research during this phase. They may go to comparison websites, product pages, or blogs. So we need to really have those content assets handy for prospects like this who want to be more aware about the solutions they are looking for. And really, it's if especially in B2B scenario, we can leverage the IP address to know who the account is, what's the company name, and using that we can start assigning lead scores to that person based on the IP address and the company ID. And we can start the personalization journey here, where we know we want to convert this visitor to the next phase of the buying cycle, which in this case is consideration. So we really want to know who this user is, and that's where gated content really is a good mean. So we want to motivate them to view gated content or testimonials or quote, and through it we get to know the user. We may get his email ID or name and further details at this stage, and we know that the engagement is really turning better than what it was there during the awareness stage. And this is the right stage where we utilize cross-channel marketing, we utilize our marketing automation tool, we really leverage the contact that we have with the customer to nurture him at this stage. And yeah, that's what all of us want. We want our prospect to make a purchase. This is the time where especially in B2B scenario, this purchase may happen totally offline, where the sales team may come in and they are the one who really follow right from a marketing qualified lead to a sales accepted to a sales qualified lead deal, and one kind of scenario, so that entire sales stage follows. And this is the time where we get the things on paper, or if it is a B2C scenario, this is the time when the online transaction really happens. We don't forget the customer here. This is the right time when we can actually monetize our investment that we have done to get that customer converted into from a prospect to a customer. So we really follow rigorously in terms of the cross sell approach. We utilize multiple channels and try to cross sell as much as we can. So what we saw in this entire cycle, if I have to simplify it in terms of what is happening at the back end, for us as marketers, we might be using several tools, and in some cases hundreds of tools at the back end, right? But as I said, we want to simplify where do we focus in this entire journey from a technology perspective. I'll say it's these three key pillars that you need to really be aware of and focus during orchestration of this journey. So it's the web CMS, which is web content management systems. It is your marketing automation platform, as well as your CRM, which is your customer relationship management platform. So these three systems, uh, your customer journey within these three systems has to be seamlessly orchestrated, and the client information should be exchanged between these three systems in real time basis. In case any one of you on the webinar today doesn't have any of these three pillars, I'll strongly advise immediately after the webinar, just think first about stabilizing these three elements of your marketing technology stack before you think about any other further task at hand. Just to simplify the message around these three, anyone who loves baseball will correlate it better. Marketing automation plays a significant role in pushing out the message and initiate the campaign. CMS plays the role of catching the prospect and converting them into customer, and CRM plays the key role of a scorekeeper where we get the single version of growth. There is a short demo that I will talk through about these three systems, how they help during an actual customer journey. So just keep, I'll let you wait till towards the end of the webinar where I showcase that demo. But for now, I just wanted to showcase how you can view your customer journey through a single dashboard. So as I said, analytics truly means to simplify the complexity. It's not the other way around that a lot of us may mean sometimes. So dashboards like this can be extremely effective in saving a lot of time. The one which I am showcasing on my screen right now, and I've got one more slide with some screenshots, but we built it for a large insurance firm using a tool called Microsoft Power BI. The reason we chose this tool because it was free of cost and it is free of cost to most of the Microsoft enterprise clients. So if you are Microsoft enterprise clients, you might not be aware, but you will have this tool free of cost with you. So idea really is before building such a dashboard, the marketing team had to log into individual tools, which is CMS, Google Analytics, automation, social, ABM, all these tools. They had to log in individually, pull out reports, and they were basically gathering it into individual PowerPoint slides and then circulating that tag. I don't know if you can correlate that within your same environment, but what it means is it's just a static view of the reports from those tools into those slides. And if there are requirements of further drilling down, slicing and dicing, it was a nightmare with that way. So with this self-service dashboards, what has come, say in this case, they were using tools such as Google Analytics for their web, Sitecore for CMS, Eloqua for marketing automation, and demand based for their account based marketing. So the view across all these tools is now in the hands of marketers, and they can play with it, they can drill down and take really actionable insights to launch for the campaigns. So for example, in these screenshots you see a report which talks about how their social media campaigns are doing, as well as between their content, how is one piece of content doing versus the other. So typically if you have multiple product pages on the website, how is my one product page doing compared to the other product page, and so on. So you know what part of your content is really working better than the other, and where you need to invest in terms of improvising the overall user experience. So very handy, very easy mechanism. It's not complex. Again, to pull out all these dashboards can be put together as quickly as 4 to 5 weeks. It's not months long projects per se. This is another example. I just took it from our own Altudo sales team dashboard. What we do here is we are collating the user journey or insights across two of our websites. We still operate the edynamic.net website as well as altudo.co, two websites, and our marketing automation system. So for individual users, since we know those users through the email IDs that are there at the beginning of the campaigns, we know for these users what pages on the website they have visited, what forms they have submitted or reacted to, and what all emails they have really seen. And we have this representation for each of these users over the span of time. We have the information which can run into years and months. So we have that entire user journey captured here, which is extremely rich for any salesperson to know and understand before talking to this prospect as to what are they looking for before I start talking to them. So yeah, before we move forward, time for another quick poll. It's really about do you utilize integration for your client data across website and email? So take a couple of seconds. Great. I hope all of you are responding. We are back. Shannon, over to you for this section.
All right. Thanks. So some of the common challenges that we find that people have when creating custom experiences are creating quality content. So, hopefully it's been apparent through me setting up the importance of developing strategy, and then Akil setting up the importance of using tools to watch, personalize, and react to the journey. Content is at the core. You're never going to have a lead gen or demand gen strategy that doesn't have content, because content is what helps people move through the buying life cycle. So some of the common challenges that we run into is that people have trouble creating content that resonates with the target audience. And this is usually due to a lack of knowledge about what the target audience cares about, which again just speaks to the importance of spending time collecting the insights before you try and develop campaigns. Also creating quality content that clients find useful. At the forefront of any content strategy, it needs to be about adding value and not serving your own interests first. You want to add value to the buying process to help somebody move through, not continue to sell your services when they don't even know that they're looking for a solution and are not even committed to making a change yet. Next one is creating content in-house with minimal budgets. Writing quality content, and then finally creating content that speaks to the entire buying life cycle. So one of the things that we run into with almost every client is that they're really good at one stage of content, and then they tend to ignore the rest of the journey. So for example, they can be really good at creating awareness or thought leadership content, but then are really bad about helping people understand why you would select one vendor over the other. So it's important to understand the needs and the questions through the journey, and to make sure that your content strategy is comprehensive across the life cycle. Next Common challenges is really understanding the audience, so building and managing accurate personas to better target the audience, finding the audience, not clearly having a defined audience, or targeting the right audience at the right time. And all of this is based on insights. Finding the right audience is typically identified when you do your buyer personas. You'll be able to understand who you're selling to and who you're not selling to. So it makes segmentation decisions much more impactful and easier to make. And then finally, having the right resources in order to create a personalized experience. So often we're running into budgeting constraints, finding the time, having insufficient resources to research, create, and implement content strategies, or bad data or lack of resources to implement a comprehensive strategy. On the next slide, which I'm sorry, I'm having trouble getting to move. Oops, excuse me. Our common personalization strategies. So these are not all inclusive, but the ones that we run into the most are doing segmented specific personalization strategies, which are typically categorized by industry or vertical segmentation. Persona specific, so talking to specific jobs and or roles. Stage specific, so treating leads that are in different stages of the buying life cycle with different strategies. So awareness, think of marketing qualified leads, sales accepted leads, or sales qualified leads. They're all in different stages, so you could potentially target them with very segmented content based on where they are in the stage. Account specific, so for those of you that follow ABM best practices, it's very popular for companies to have account-specific personalization strategies. And then finally, lead-specific, which is really when you're trying to have more of that one-to-one relationship development or personalization strategy. So the next poll is, are you using any of the following personalization strategies in developing your campaigns? So I'll give you a minute to answer before we move back into the slides. Perfect. I think we should be able to wrap this up and move to the next slide. So before I turn it back over to Akhil to go through the demo, I just wanted to reiterate and validate many of the concepts behind our point of view. And hopefully it's been apparent to you that the strategy development, which is all of the customer insights at the beginning of campaign development, are important in order for you to use the tools to watch, personalize, and react to the journey. So going through some research and really helping you to validate and just reiterate some of the concepts behind some of the information we've shared with you today is some research that was done by the Content Marketing Institute and Scribble Live that was shared at the end of 2018. First one is reasons why organizations are using content marketing and demand generation together. So I just wanted to point out the 5 top areas for content development and content and demand generation is to generate leads and impact customers at the top of the funnel. That's number one. The second one is content and demand generation are being used to generate brand awareness. The next one in line is establishing relationships through thought leadership. And then the 5th top one was really nurturing people through the entire funnel. On the next slide, we talk about ways that different companies are measuring content. So number one is really looking at the amount of web traffic that new content is driving to their website, whether that's an individual landing page or experience or to their homepage. Next one is really doing audience engagement. So as I mentioned earlier, people may have different ways of segmenting the audience, but they are using content and trying to measure the level of engagement to determine whether or not the content strategy is working. And then finally, the last one is measuring the quality of the leads that the content and the campaign are generating. And then finally, thank you. Finally, nope, sorry, we're having some issues with the slide movement. I need to go back one slide. Okay, so finally, the area where people are seeing the most value in content development is top of funnel. I think that makes sense. People are not committed to making a decision, and so a lot of companies are spending more time trying to generate content to drive awareness. Next in line, again, which I think logically makes sense, is trying to move them through the consideration and intent process, and then finally, late stage content to help them through with evaluation and purchase. Obviously, sales is getting involved in that late stage cycle. So I think that's why it's apparent that marketing is pulling back a little bit and letting that one-to-one relationship exist with sales. So finally, before I turn it back over to Akil, I just wanted to reiterate the importance of an integrated approach and just reiterate some of the key messages that you've heard both of us share through the webinar. So number one, you cannot develop campaigns and content or integrated tactics without understanding the buyer journey first. And the buyer journey is typically changing for most customers as they move through awareness, consideration, and purchase. When developing content and campaigns, their questions are changing as they move from one stage to the other. So you need to have unique content strategies and unique campaign strategies for each stage of the buying life cycle. Awareness campaigns are going to have a very different content strategy and messaging strategy than something in the consideration phase and something in the purchase phase. Once you have that insight, you then can develop the content and campaigns. You're going to leverage different content at different stages of the buying life cycle. As many of you may know, if you're in the awareness stage, you're less committed to making a change, so you need quicker hitting content. Because you're not committed to the journey yet. So think of blogs, short form content, videos. They're not committed to making a change, so you need to capture their attention and add value very quickly. When you move into consideration, their commitment to consuming content is a bit warmer. They're going to spend a medium amount of time with you as they're continuing to educate themselves. So you want to think about executing content in the form of ebooks, longer form blogs, potentially case studies, analyst reports that may be building on a concept of why somebody may need this particular solution. And then finally, in purchase stage content, the commitment to consuming content is high. People are wanting to consume deeper, richer stage content that's helping them understand why one vendor is better than another, or why one feature or function should be considered over another. And then finally, the way that you promote them will also be tied to the buying stages. So in the in the awareness stage, where people might be using Google AdWords in order to understand different solutions or different pains out there, when they're in the purchase stage, they may be primarily relying on events or partners to help them make their final decision. So everything is dependent on what stage they're in, which again, I think just speaks to the importance of making sure that you have the insights before you try and architect an integrated marketing approach. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Akil. He's going to take us through a sample journey to show how the tech and the strategy come into play and really work together.
Awesome. Shannon, thank you so much. So yeah, as everyone says, action is worth more than 1,000 words. So let's have a quick view as an example of how things look like when they really put back to work. We are talking about personalization. We saw things around lead scoring. We saw so much, but how does it actually happen? So there is a quick demo for a client of ours called FIS. For those who don't know them, FIS is a Fortune 500 companies, and they basically are into payment processing, providing software and services to banks across the globe. So for them, here's a buyer journey. Assuming somebody searches a keyword on Google, say in this case is marketing analytics for retail banking, and they see FIS landing page and they land up to this landing page. So the CMS here is site core, what you see. What's happening inside the system is what I'm going to show you here. So a user who has come to this landing page, for him, it's visit number 1. We know the source for this is Google search, and we know what keyword they have used. IP address is known to us, and as I said, there are geo IP software tools which can provide information as to what this IP address belongs to. So in this case, this IP address belongs to Stanford, and we know the organization to which this IP address belongs to. So this is the information which the system gathers right now. It tries to profile the prospect, and in this case, based on the landing page and keyword, profiles it as retail banking analytics. And the engagement at this stage, as we know, is low. We don't know much about the prospect. The strategy which a lot of us follow on the first go itself is we want them to fill up a contact us form. Hey, fill up the contact us form and we'll reach out to you. That's the typical strategy a lot of us as marketers follow. And this is the same strategy assuming it is followed in this case. And there is a contact us form which is typically has like 7-8 fields about what they want to achieve and so on. And at this stage, really, the prospect, the visitor, is not having a trust on the brand which we are trying to portray. So without that trust, users are not comfortable sharing their information. They don't want anybody from our brand to contact them at this stage. So assuming that happens in this case as well, the user drops from this page and just shuts off the website. Assuming he remembers FIS, he remembers seeing this page, and then he comes back directly by typing fis.com. People don't remember the entire link right to the page. So remembering this, he comes back to the website. This is visit number 2, and this time it's direct. He's here. The system recognizes the IP address and say, hey, this is the same profile this time. And engagement is still low, though it's visit number 2, engagement is still low. The change here this time is that the strategy is not to just push up a contact us form, but rather we want to engage and build trust with this visitor with our brand. So the channel we are using this time is website personalization. So what you see right now on the home page is contains a lot of things. So it's a great amount of real estate that we have, but we are not utilizing it to for this specific user. So if he really wants to search about, say, retail banking analytics, he'll have to click through at least 4 or 5 times, say through solutions or some pages beneath it, to actually reach to the point of that content, which a lot of times we see people don't do, and that's why they drop out from the website. So in this case, what we want to achieve is the content already exists beneath those layers, those clicks, right? So we just want to push up that content to the home page. In this case, we don't expect the user to click 5 times and then reach, peel off those layers and then reach through that content. So in this case, we want him to read content. So we basically the system replaces the hero image to something which pertains to the topic or the profile he belongs to, and the banners here on the homepage itself gets changed more towards the retail banking analytics in this case. Assuming the user goes through it, he finds this interesting. On one click, he goes to the landing page which is related to this topic. Now we know that the user is really into awareness phase, and we want him to consume more content rather than again jumping onto steps. We want him to consume more content so that he's more aware about us, our brand, our solutions. And there is a video which is popped up. Assuming he views it, now the system tries to profile him again, saying he has consumed all of this content which belongs to a specific area or topic. So the system profiles him as the banking analytics architect in this case. Now the engagement is termed as medium, and we really want him to know who this person is. So right now it's all getting tracked only based on the IP address, but we want to know who this person is, what's his name, and what's his email ID and contact. So the best way for doing it is, of course, gated content. So in this case, assuming there is gated content in terms of the offer which is displayed to him, and he wants to really see this product page. For it, he has to either provide his name and email, or he can log in using his social ID. Assuming he logs in using his LinkedIn ID, and now there is whole bunch of information that we know about this user. We know his name, his title, his company name, and his email ID. All of it because of the social login that he has done for us. So now the engagement is turned high because he has shared his contact info. The engagement is turned high. He's really moving into the next phase of our customer journey where he's actually considering. When we go back and look at the system, this is the admin part of Sitecore, where the information about each prospect is captured. So the point I wanted to highlight with this is all of us are use systems like Google Analytics for viewing the web traffic, right? So I'm a personal strong believer in Google Analytics and use it every day. The only point is Google Analytics is extremely effective when we are talking about traffic as a whole. If we want to really find out who that individual is, what's the journey of that individual prospect on our website, on our channels, then systems like Sitecore do a great job. So here we see for this user, this prospect, the entire journey from the first click to what content he has consumed and so on is captured. What profiles were triggered, he belongs to what profiles that we schedule in the system, all that is visible. From a traffic perspective, we also get to compare different content pieces on the website as to which content is driving best conversions, which are green, versus which content is letting a lot of drop-offs, which are these red buttons. So as a content administrator or as a content author for my website, I know these are the pages I need to focus and see why my users are getting dropped off. It's already so tough to get traffic to our website, but now we are getting them dropped off at these points. So I can go back and cross-check my content strategy for those pages specifically. So for this example, now the strategy we have is really to nurture and convert him. You know, in B2B scenarios, it's a long nurture cycle that any customer may undergo. So this time, since we had the email ID for the user, we are using email personalization. In this case, they are using Eloqua as their marketing automation system. And what we are doing is we are personalizing the email message here based on the user's history, the web pages he has bought. So remember, initially I was talking to you about integration of customer data points between your CMS systems and your MAP, your marketing automation platform. So this is the perfect example of it. The entire view history of this user on the CMS is getting visible to the marketing automation platform. And Eloqua in this case is actually utilizing the content repository from Sitecore to personalize the email messages, which are very, very specific for this particular user. So he gets personalized emails. He gets his lead scores between both the systems, both Eloqua and Sitecore gets updated. I'm sure you, all of you must be well aware about lead scoring. So in Eloqua, lead score has got 2 digits. First digit is explicit information about the user. The second digit is the engagement that he has done with us through the marketing automation platform. So we have the lead scoring going across both Eloqua and Sitecore in this case. And there is a event which is coming up for FIS. They invite the user for this event. At this point, we know the engagement is high, and this user he has agreed to come to the event. This is the high time when we actually want to involve our sales team, because in B2B scenarios, the sales cycle really takes care of after beyond this point in terms of conversion. So there is a trigger which is sent to the sales team. This is the CRM snapshot, which is Salesforce in this case. And let me admit, I am also salesman. Salespeople are lazy guys, right? So we don't want to log into multiple systems or tools to get a view of our customer. We just use one system, which is CRM. So in this case, all that information about this prospect is exchanged in real time with Salesforce CRM. His engagement value from site core, his lead score from Eloqua, what content he has consumed, what forms he has submitted. uh, from both the systems, all this rich information is passed on to Salesforce. That's where the salesperson logs in, checks before attending the event, and during the event he meets the prospect, and then through their sales cycle he closes the deal. And after it really begins the entire cycle of loyalty that Shannon had referred to in the previous slide, saying that's really the right point where we start monetizing our investment. So through a mix of sales and marketing activities, now that we know a lot of things about our customer, the entire cross sell cycle begins, both on the web channel as well as the email channel. So in terms of the typical question that comes to us as to we as marketer, how do we go about it? It's good to hear, but a lot of us think that personalization or this seamless integration between CMS, CRM, and marketing automation, it's a long journey. It will take months and years. How do we go about it, and so on? So our simple example is, let's take a step-by-step approach. Let's not jump the gun. Let's not boil the ocean. We are not here to do a big bang and then spend months long before realizing that we have lost all the time. It's always good to start with baby steps. So in this case, we are saying the first step is an audit where Lead It and Altudo can help you in terms of finding out from your current campaigns and content what is working, what is not working, where are you converting, are your web strategies really aligned with your overall goal. For example, some marketers really want to drive qualified leads for their sales team. Are you achieving that goal? Some marketers really want to drive brand awareness. Some marketers may want to drive customer engagement. So what exactly is your goal, and is it really aligned with your digital strategy? That's really the first thing we have to cross check. Segmentation is very critical, as Shannon had hinted before, and then of course reviewing the performance for each of these areas. From after this assessment, the next step really is towards a quick, we call it the quick business wins, because it's a very short process of hardly a month and a half, where we are talking about within 30 to 45 days we conduct these workshops and then implement it at the same go within your system, so that you don't have to wait for months long for this phenomena to happen. So with quick business wins, we are talking about, say, personalization of certain specific sections of your website. We don't want to again boil the ocean and personalize each and every aspect of the website. We want to go ahead and just touch the key pages, say the home page, the product page, and so on. And what are the key components or sections of the website that needs to be personalized? That's it. Let's not try to personalize each and everything. A/B testing, extremely important. As marketers, we have to A/B test so many of our strategies. And then of course, from our marketing automation perspective, the entire lead management process, lead nurture and lead scoring, is it there or not? Are we utilizing these platforms? Typically we buy as marketers, we invest in. They are so powerful that and most of the times I've seen that we have invested so much in these platforms, but we are not able to utilize them to their potential. So this workshop really brings that uplift, able to monetize our investment in these platforms and go ahead as the first step towards the larger objective or vision of 1:1 marketing. So I'll think that's it for the discussion today. We have time left for Q&As and suggestions and feedback. So Amit, would love to hear the questions and suggestions that we have from the audience.
Yeah, we have about 2 or 3 of them. I'll try and group them together. But to the audience, please feel free to send in the questions through the questions tab on your screen. The first question, in fact, so I'm going to combine the first 2 questions because they fit in together. The first one is, how does content strategy tie into automation platforms and our campaigns? And how do you measure conversion through campaigns versus organic content consumption?
I'll let Shannon answer that. Shannon, you want to try that?
I didn't hear the first part of it, so I'm sorry if you wouldn't remind
The
repeating
question is,
that.
how does content strategy tie into your automation platforms and the campaigns?
How does content strategy tie into the automation platform and the campaigns?
Yep.
Okay. So when you're watching activity, as Akhil showed you in some of the dashboards, that activity is triggered by consumption of content. They have to be clicking on something in order for you to measure something, which is why I spent a lot of time in the beginning talking about the importance of content in any demand generation strategy. You have to give them something. So that conversion, the activity or the engagement that they are showing with the content is going to be fed into the marketing automation platform. So you'll be able to measure how many people are engaging with it. Are they moving from, taking the click to the link, to filling out the form, to actually getting the piece of content? That entire journey is what is captured in the marketing automation platform that Akhil mentioned earlier. And that is also what surfaced up through the reporting. So I think if the original question is how is it used, it's like at the center of how it's used, and all the activity and tracking is basically being sent from the web page over to the systems and then back into the reports that Akhil was showing you towards the beginning of the presentation. Akhil, I don't know if you want to add any more to that, and if I missed a part of the question, please let me know.
Sure. No, you hit the nail on the head, Shannon. Here, only thing to add is towards the user experience. A lot of times, for certain specific industries, let me take example of say professional services industry. We work with people like legal services. They have ton of content. It's there is no dearth of content that they have, and they have content which is as old as say 50 years, 60 years, and they're just piling on content through their legacy. So the real beauty in this is how to pitch that content at the right time to the right prospect, because there is so much of content which lies within the system. We can't throw all of it at the same go, right? We want the user journey to be simple. So the navigation that your website needs to have, for example, or the message that you want to through your emails has to be personalized as to what content that user wants to see. In a lot of professional services, especially, I've seen so much of content is there that sometimes you want to throw all of it on the one go to the user. So there are so many of these blocks on the website. Certain pages will be full of all these boxes with different links towards the content, which doesn't really help sometimes. So it's all about simplifying the user experience, I will say.
I'll take the liberty of answering the second part, which is how do you measure conversions through campaigns versus organic? So platforms like Sitecore and in fact your Eloqua, especially when they are integrated, actually allow you to track these links, your audience visits through these links. And not only do they help you in attribution, but they also help you in lead scoring. We'd love to talk to you more about this if you're interested. And we'd like to actually show you in detail how we can do that for you. But that's for another time. For the second question, is it common to have more than one personalization strategies? And which one would you recommend for a mid-sized consumer products company? I think, Shannon, this one is for you.
I would say it's definitely common. Like we work with people or clients that have an ABM strategy and then more of the traditional persona-based segmentation strategy when somebody doesn't cleanly fit in that ABM target. So I definitely don't feel like there's a hard, fast rule about sticking with one or not doing more than a few. I think it depends on what makes sense for the business. The second piece of the question was which one is more effective, and this is a very hard question to answer without knowing what makes sense for your business. But I would say some of the more common ones that we see are going to be persona-based, account-based, or stage-based. But your sales cycle and the focus of your sales team and how your sales is going to market should be directly complementary to what your segmentation strategy is going to be from a marketing standpoint. And every sales strategy is a little bit different. So this is very specific to each company, and this is definitely something we can advise you on. But I wouldn't say there's one hard and fast rule of which one works best for a company. There's no blanket approach.
Right. And would love to add a little to this one, Amit and Chen. So we do work with a lot of these consumer product companies. You see logos such as Arm & Hammer, Doral Sports here. Especially in the era of D2C or direct to consumer, which is getting very common with most of the consumer product company. Personalization is not really something which is optional, believe me. It's something which is essential for survival if you are a consumer products company. It's not just merely an option that you can have or you cannot have. And if you are mid-size, see, all of us want to become the Amazon of tomorrow, right? But the best news today is we have platforms which can do a lot of this stuff at your fingertips without you to spend so much or in terms of time and resources to build an Amazon. So, for example, Sitecore, the CMS we just showcased, the beauty of this is you can do both rule-based personalization as well as predictive personalization with the system without having to undergo the entire effort of data science or need to build an entire team or army of data scientists there to find out what you want to do. So it's the system. After the initial rules, it will try to learn and then determine what are the best rules that need to be configured for that specific user group for you. So my only advice is we already have such a great technology in hand today that every mid-sized consumer products company definitely needs to leverage. If you don't do it today, believe me, in very short period of time, we may see a lot of these mid-size companies getting out of business.
Thanks, Akhil. I think we have time for just one more, and I'm going to rephrase that. I will take the liberty of rephrasing it. You mentioned Sitecore. Which other platforms does it integrate to apart from, for example, social and video channels? Okay, I think you should be answering this one.
Sure. So is the question about what other channels can the dashboard integrate to? Is that
no? The question is specifically about Sitecore. So I'll just explain. So you mentioned when you were giving us a demo, you mentioned that it connects to Eloqua, Google Analytics, and such. The question is, what other channels does it integrate to? So specifically social and video channels. So I'm guessing it's YouTube.
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of the client data or the client view, we can integrate with what not, believe me. So for example, at Altudo, we have developed out-of-the-box connectors with social tools, with video tools such as Brightcove or Vimeo or YouTube. All of these connectors we have already developed, because as marketers, we don't want to wait, right? We don't want to wait for a developer to develop all this in-house and take months. We want to just have the results handy in our hands, right? So for that, as Altudo, we have developed these connectors out of the box, and we just have to customize and kind of pull it into the system. So you name the video channels, which are whatever the top 5-6 channels that we have today, whether it be Brightcove or YouTube or Vimeo, we have the connectors built for that. In terms of social, the most popular ones are, of course, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Pinterest. But yeah, there are all these. The good part is all of these social channels today have got their APIs exposed, which we can utilize and connect them easily. So we have got out of the box connectors built for, I think, 6 or 7 of them, but even for the rest, wherever the APIs are exposed, it's not too difficult to integrate them. I hope that answers the question, Amit.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Akhil. So with that, we're just bang on time to wrap up our webinar. If you have any questions, please send them to marketing@altudo.co, and we'd love to come back to you and discuss them in detail. Our panelists would be answering these questions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a part of this webinar. Thanks, Akhil, and thanks, Shannon, for giving us a great insight through this webinar.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.